Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with 6 CDs. They're all individual discs, but I really felt I should go through them in a clump of the Dandy edition on Chandos. Because nobody really cares about Dandy, and he wrote a lot of orchestral music, and here it is. At least most of it, if not all of it. I think this is all of it. And it's an important series, and it's very nicely done. It really is, and well recorded. It features Rumon Gamba and the Iceland Symphony Orchestra. Now, granted, the Iceland Symphony Orchestra is not the world's greatest ensemble, and they could do with some more strings. They're like the Lahti Symphony. They're sort of a large chamber orchestra, but they've got all the stuff that you need to do this music, and they play extremely well. So I can't criticize it on that score. Usually, when you're dealing with composers of the second tier, and Dandy was certainly one. Some might say he's the third tier, but an important composer nonetheless. Don't get me wrong. I've always said this. You wish you could get the greatest top-tier conductors in orchestra doing the music. It would be nice to have like the Berlin Philharmonic or the Vienna Philharmonic or the Chicago Symphony doing complete Dandy cycles. But you think that's going to happen? Could anyone afford it? No, of course not. You need to have subsidies. You need to find a conductor willing to learn the music and willing to be recorded. So he can't be the biggest name because he doesn't need to do it. The biggest names, they do their thing and everyone screams and yells and they don't have to do anything else. They're lazy, in other words. So you need an enterprising conductor, and Gamba is certainly that, and a very good one, and an orchestra that's used to interesting repertoire, and God knows the Iceland Symphony can do that, and a label that will invest the time and energy. And Chandos, of course, is fantastic when it comes to that particular quality. So let's just go through these 6 discs. I will just say universally, they're very good. They really are. People may have preferences. A lot of this music was recorded by Michel Plasson and the Toulouse Orchestra, which frankly is probably a little bit below the Iceland Symphony in terms of their overall accomplishment. Some of this stuff has been available on other independent French labels like Ovidis Valois or Fuga Libre or things like that. Dandy was the most important disciple of César Franck. He was a insane Wagnerian. It's only the French can be. He wanted to be plus Wagnerien que Wagner lui-même. You know what I mean? He wanted to be more Wagnerian than Wagner. And that was his thing. He was, of course, an anti-Semite. He ran the Schola Cantorum that trained like everybody in 20th century French music, or just about everybody. He was quite rigid and dogmatic, evidently, but, who cares? He wrote a lot of music. Some of it's lovely. He was kind of like the French Delius in some ways. He wrote a lot of nature stuff. But let's go through it. You'll see. The interesting thing about this series is that you get a chance to enjoy him and appreciate him whole. The wide range of what he accomplished. And it was a considerable amount. So, Disc 1, Volume 1, you get Jour d'été à la montagne. Summer Day on a Mountain, 30 minutes long, very similar to Liszt's Ce qu'on entend sur la montagne, a similar mountain kind of thing. It's very nature intoxicated, and it sort of, hangs out slushily and doesn't really go anywhere, but it's very beautiful while it's not doing anything. It's that kind of a thing. Then you get the Enchanted Forest, Le Forêt Enchantée. So maybe he's like Bax, although the Baxians will take umbrage at that, I'm sure. And then we've got Souvenirs, a poem for orchestra to the memory of La Bien-Aimée, of the beloved. Yeah, okay. So that's like a lot of music, and it's beautiful and heavy and thick and Wagnerian. Then we got, Disc 2, his second symphony dedicated to Paul Dukas, one of the great works of the post-Frankian symphonic style. It's a big, powerful, passionate piece. I am not particularly fond of it, but some of you swear by it, and I respect that. It's a major work, really a major work, and maybe if I listen to it a few dozen more times, it will impress me similarly. Then we've got Tableau de Voyage. This is orchestrated by the composer of 6 movements from Tableau de Voyage for solo piano, a travelogue, a delightful set of miniatures. And then Karadec, music scene, yeah, musique de scène pour un drame de André Alexandre. The orchestral suite, it's a 10-minute long suite of incidental music. It takes longer for me to pronounce it than it will for you to listen to it. Volume 3, Istar, one of his most famous pieces, the symphonic variations. It's a deliciously intelligent and fun piece to listen to. The cool thing about Istar is that the variations precede and slowly unveil the theme, which appears at the end. The problem with Istar, as I pointed out before, is that the variations sound a lot more interesting than the tune does when it finally arrives. Oops. But it's still a very good piece, very clever, and you may like the tune more than I do. Then you've got his Chorale Varié for saxophone solo and orchestra. Now there's something different. Symphony number 3, short symphony of the German War, the French War, the Bello Gallico there. 32 minutes, it's not that short. He wasn't at his best as a symphonist, I think, really. I think his tone poems are really a lot more colorful and interesting on the whole. Then the Diptyque Méditerranéenne, a beautiful 15-minute long suite of 2 luscious sea pieces from the Mediterranean. Then we've got Volume 4, the Poème des Rivages, the poem of the river. Suite symphonique. This is a big sucker. It's 39 minutes long. Very Delius-like. It really is. I mean, listen to it. You'll see what I mean. And then the Symphonie Italienne in A minor. He wrote an Italian symphony. Who knew? Charming, fun to listen to, and kind of delightful. It was not given an opus number. It was one of his sort of pieces that he didn't, make much effort on behalf of. But we have it. You can decide whether he should have or not. Then we've got Volume 5, Symphony on a French Mountain Air. Oh, this is great. This is great. The Symphonie Cévenol, probably his masterpiece as an orchestral composer. It's tons of fun. It has a sense of humor. It has color. It has great tunes. And it's a bitch and a half to play for the soloist. And I know because we did it. It's one of my great war stories. As a performer, we had a hotshot soloist from the Manhattan School, was a professor or something, as a Russian guy, and he didn't learn it. He couldn't learn it. He said, well, it's not a real concerto. He didn't need to bother with it. He didn't have to waste his time with it. And then, as the concert was approaching, and he had to show up for rehearsals, and he had to know it, he looked at the piano part and realized it was too difficult for him to learn. And so we got the French music scholar and expert, Sylvia Kahan, to come in and do it and on a moment's notice. And she proved that it can be done if you're not an arrogant boob. So there you go. So that's a great piece. And this is with Louis Lorty, so he's a fine pianist. The prelude to Act 1 of Ferval. Well, Ferval is Parsifal Goes to Paris. It's like Wagner on steroids. And it's just an excessive, pseudo-spiritual, Schreifest. It's a mess. It's a big, huge, flabby, post-Wagnerian orgasm. Kind of. So there's that. Then we've got Sauge Fleury, the legend after Robert de Bornière. Well, that's fun. And the orchestral suite to Medea. Yeah, Medea's always great. You gotta love Medea. And then we've got Volume 6, Wallenstein, the Wallenstein trilogy. Smetana did a Wallenstein trilogy too. But we've got the Camp of Wallenstein. Then we've got the second part. It's a trilogy. Max and Thekla. And part 3, The Death of Wallenstein, a group of 3 symphonic poems. They last about, well, let's see, how are we doing here? 20 minutes, 35 minutes. Then the prelude to Act 3 of Ferval. Ferval has lots of preludes. I don't think it has anything postludial. I don't know if anything actually happens in Ferval. And then we've got his lead, Opus 19, for cello and orchestra, and the suite in the ancient style, which is just charmant. And finally, his Serenade and Waltz, Opus 28. And that is 6 discs of dandy. Now, you should certainly have the Symphony on a French Mountain Air. I would even recommend the Second Symphony, and you should get the Poème des Rivages and the Summer Day on the Mountains, the tone poem-y things. Give them a listen. Give them a shot. See what you think. And if you want more, there's more, which is really a great thing to have. And you should get them while you can, because things are getting deleted. Things are harder to find than they used to be. I don't know how long this stuff will last, if it's even all still in print, but I felt that I would not be doing my duty if I didn't mention it to you and recommend it accordingly. Explore! Go for it! Keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me. Take care.